Hi dear students, let's see this question that came in JEE Advanced, Paper 1 Physics in the year 2019. The question was based on Gauss's law and a application of solid angle. Uh, but this question had some amount of ambiguity in one of the options. Let's see what I'm talking about and let's see why IT should have given a different answer, in my opinion, of course. So let's see what's happening over here. There's a charge shell of radius r which carries a total charge q. Read this word carefully, total charge q. It's not written that the charge has been uniformly distributed, mind you. Now phi is the flux through the closed cylinder of height h, radius r, and this cylinder has been kept symmetrically. For example, if this is the shell, so cylinder would have been like the center of the cylinder will coincide with the center of the shell, and depending upon the height of the cylinder in various other options, it can be like this, right? And or like if this is the center is coinciding, so we are placing the cylinder vertically. So this situation can be like this if h is less than certain value, or it can be like this as well. Like if h is large, then it can be like this. If h is small, then it can be like this. And depending upon the radius also, we will see different other options, whether this cylinder is enclosing the whole shell or a part of the shell. So the essence is that this cylinder will is symmetrically placed with respect to the shell. Now epsilon naught is the permittivity. Now let's check all the options, and remember, as I said, they have only given that q is the total charge on the shell. Okay, now we will discuss what will be the answer if we assume that total charge is uniformly distributed, which eventually IIT assumed to be true, and they gave the answer as per that. And we will also see what should have been the correct answer if we just assume what is written in the question. We will not make any extra assumption. Then what do we get the answer? Okay. So in this case, if we assume the charge has been uniformly distributed and h is greater than 2r and radius of the cylinder is 4r by 5, this here there should be a comma, r should be 4r by 5. So in this case, if I draw the figure, so basically if this is the shell, right, and h is greater than 2r and the radius is 4r by 5, so this is somewhat situation will look like. Okay, and if you see this radius, this thing will be 4r by 5. Okay, so this radius is 4r by 5, so it is easy to see that this thing will be 3r by 5 and this thing will be r. Okay, so this is 4r by 5, so we can calculate this theta. You can see this is 4r by 5 and this is r, so here sine theta becomes 4 by 5, which we can say theta is approximately 53 degrees. Okay, now using the concept of solid angle, if you consider this part of the shell, so this solid angle, if we talk about omega, so this omega can be written as 2 pi into 1 minus cos theta, right? So 2 pi into 1 minus cos 53 is 3 by 5, which becomes 2 by 5. So this is the omega here, and same omega will be subtended by this part of the shell. So basically, we can say that total flux passing through this cylinder will be 2 omega upon 4 pi. Okay, because 4 pi is the angle subtended by the whole shell at its center. This is the solid angle. 4 pi is the solid angle subtended by the whole shell at its center. So 2 omega upon 4 pi into q over epsilon naught. This will be the flux, right? So from here, if you see, what do we get as the answer? So this becomes 2 into 4 pi by 5, right? And divide by 4 pi into q upon epsilon naught. So this cancels out. Here this is 2q upon 5 epsilon naught. So answer is 2q upon 5 epsilon naught. If, and remember here we have assumed that charge has been uniformly distributed on the shell, right? So of course this doesn't match. Option A is wrong. Okay. Now if we assume, now let's check for option B. Option B says that r is 3r by 5. So only thing is that this theta will become 37 degrees, because this is 3r by 5 and h is still greater than 2r. So this same figure theta will become 37 degrees. So if you check for option B, we will say that sine theta will be 3 by 5, which will mean theta will be 37 degrees. So now that solid angle omega, this solid angle I'm talking about, omega, will become 2 pi into 1 minus 4 by 5. 2 pi into 1 minus 4 by 5, which makes it 2 pi by 5, right? Hence, again, this same amount of omega will be separated by this part of the shell. So phi will again be 2 pi, 2 omega, yeah, 2 omega upon 4 pi into q upon epsilon naught. So this becomes, you can see this will become 4 pi upon 4 pi by 5. So basically it will 1 by 5 will come and 4 pi will cancel out. So we are going to get q upon 5 epsilon naught, which matches with option B, right? Now, if you look at option C is if h is less than 8 r by 5. So if h is less than 8 r by 5, that means, and r is 3 r by 5, then phi is 0. Let's see what is the scenario. Let's draw option C over here. So if this is the shell, okay, and if the radius is 3 r by 5, let's see what, let's see if what is the height of this cylinder, which is just inscribed in the shell. So if this is 3 r by 5, okay, if radius is 3 r by 5, then it is easy to see that this will be 4 r by 5 because this is r. So this height will be 8 r by 5. Make sense? This height will be 8 r by 5. Now in our question it is given that h is less than 8 r by 5. That means this whole cylinder actually lies between inside the shell. That means the actual scenario is somewhat like this. Somewhat like this. And hence we can say that since there is no charge inside this cylinder, hence no flux will pass through this, hence phi will be 0 in this case. Okay, so this is also right. Option D, if you see h is greater than 2r and r is greater than r, this clearly implies that whole shell lies inside the cylinder. Whole shell lies inside the cylinder. This is the scenario. And hence flux will be q upon epsilon naught because total charge inside the cylinder is q. So correct answer will be B, C, D. Now let's talk about the ambiguity. As I said, they have not mentioned uniformly distributed. Okay, so if they have not mentioned uniformly distributed, so in that case we will not get option B. Only C and D will be correct. Let's see why. A was anyway wrong. If you talk about option B, we have made the assumption that charge was uniformly distributed. If you don't know where the charge is, then this Q can be here at a single point. This can be here, or this can be distributed in this part, or this can be distributed randomly. So we certainly do not know how much charge will lie inside the cylindrical shell. So in that case, we can say that option B we cannot say for sure. C and D still will be correct because however is the distribution, if whole cylinder lies inside the shell, so in that case we can say that there is no charge inside the cylinder, so phi should be 0. And in option D again we can say if whole cylinder lies like whole shell lies inside the cylinder, पूरा shell अगर cylinder के अंदर lie कर रहा है, in that case flux will be q by epsilon naught irrespective of the charge distribution. Now as an as a student, sincere student who has studied properly in J and he's writing JEE Advanced, what would have gone in the mind of a student? Suppose you are writing, you have prepared very well and you are expecting a very good rank in Advanced and you are writing this exam. So is it like what would you do? Would you make this assumption on your own? In my opinion, one should have not made this assumption because see, if someone tells you that this question is flawless, that means whatever is written in the question is assumed to be correct. Then, of course, I will not mark option B because this assumption, of course, I cannot make. In fact, if we do not make that assumption, then that is a better question. So option C and D should be right. And when we are writing JEE Advanced, the exam of that stature, then of course we cannot go with the mindset that there might be a flaw in the question. So assuming if you are writing the question with, if you are writing the answer with the assumption that question is flawless, then we should not have made that assumption and we should have given only C and D as the correct answer. In my opinion, this was not like right step by IITs to take B, C or D, like both all the correct options B, C and D. At least they should have given full marks to those students who have marked only C and D, because in my opinion they were better or they have given a better response. So that's my take. Thank you.